Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Balance and Bubbles. I'm Shannon.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy, and we're so glad you're here today. This month, we've been talking about what it means to soften without losing yourself, not becoming passive, not becoming quieter, but learning to respond to life with a little more intention and a little more grace.
Yes. Last month, we spent time becoming more aware, right? Awareness is where it starts. We listened to our bodies. We questioned the stories that our minds was telling us. We paid attention to our emotions. And now we're taking the next step. What do we do with all this awareness? Because awareness is beautiful, but it's what we choose next that begins to shape our lives.
And before we dive in, let's talk about our weekly pause together. If you have something nearby to sip on or wonderful like we do, maybe it's our Rose and Raspberry Fizz. Maybe it's iced tea, sparkling water, coffee, or just a glass of water. Whatever you're holding, you're in the right place. But I do really want y'all to take a moment to look at how good this not only looks, but it just makes you feel good by looking at it. The colors are gorgeous. And I'll stop there. I'll let you take over.
Yeah, and we didn't put glitter in this time. It was so pretty.
we didn't even need the glitter. But this just makes me feel like I am at a resort or at a spa, and the colors are so just pretty, and
the taste
makes me happy. This we have to admit, we both agreed of all the drinks so far, the taste of this one is definitely the best.
Yeah.
It's the mint, I think.
The mint and the raspberry is really good. So we say this every week and we mean it. This has never been about making a perfect mocktail. And actually what we're going to start doing is we're going to give like 3 options with our mocktails, the recipes, so that if you want to be elaborate and you have time to make a simple syrup, for your mocktail, that's great. If not, you can use maybe a little bit of an elevated, or maybe you're drinking a sparkling water that has raspberry in it, right? We don't want this to be one more thing that you have to do, but we really do want to create this as a ritual and having you really feel good about what you're doing and giving yourself that little bit of reset. So if you would like this week's recipe and the reflection questions, you can find these down below in the links in the podcast notes. And if now isn't the right time, that's okay too. We are just simply glad that you are back here with us again this week.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining. And as always, we always encourage you to like anything about our podcast. Feel free to give us feedback and things like that. But we are going to move on with our content today. So I love to ask questions. So Shannon, can I ask you something?
Of course.
Have you ever reacted to something and before the conversation was even over, you were already wishing you could take it back?
Oh, you know what?
I mean, it's a laughable question.
It is,
right?
Because we've all done it. Yeah. So yes, probably multiple times throughout my life have I said, why did I do that? Or why did I respond that way?
Me too. Maybe it was something you said. Maybe it was your tone. Maybe it was a text message that you sent a little too quickly. And then afterwards you thought, this isn't even who I want to be.
Yes. Yeah. I think we've all been there. I think we absolutely have all done something. And what's really interesting in those moments don't usually happen because we're bad people. They happen because something inside of us got activated and we responded before we even had time to think.
Exactly. Sometimes it's frustration. A lot of times it could be hurt or, maybe it's fear. And before we even realize what's happening, we are reacting.
Absolutely. I get the idea of being out on the road, and you just have that one person who cuts you off or something, and all of a sudden you're like 0 to 10. So one of my favorite quotes is, I love Viktor Frankl, who is a Holocaust survivor, and he has a book called Man's Search for Meaning, and it's a really wonderful book. But one of his quotes that he says, and I hold this with me all the time, is between stimulus and a response, there's a space. And that space gives us our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our ability for growth and our freedom. And I think it's so powerful to just recognize it. Just because something happened, we don't have to respond right now. We get to create that space that's in there to allow us to respond. And I used to have it on my signature block. I go to that all the time. It's just my favorite quote in the world. And I think that it is in this space where so much of life gets to happen.
I love that quote. I
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever actually heard that quote before, and I really like there's space in there, which is a
Mhm.
key word, right? Because sometimes that space is only one breath.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's saying, "Can I think about that and get back to you?" Sometimes it's deciding not to respond to the text until the next morning.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be a dramatic pause. Sometimes it's just enough space to remember who you want to be before you hit send.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's something that I've learned as I've gotten older. When I was younger, I thought maturity meant not having big emotions, really being able to control my emotions and not having them. And now I think maturity is really realizing that I can have those big emotions, but I do not have to let them make my decisions for me.
That's a very important distinction
Mhm.
because emotions aren't the problem. Generally, they're just part of being human. The question is, what do we do after they show up?
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah, last month we talked about emotions being information.
Mhm.
And I still believe that, but information doesn't require an immediate response. Information gives us the next action step to do. So if my dashboard light comes on in my car, I'm not going to rip the engine out, right? To to fix it. I don't rip the engine apart on the side of the road. I pay
Yeah,
attention. I
right.
get curious, what's going on? Why is it here? And then I get to figure out what I need to do. What does my car need? And I think our emotions deserve that same kind of curiosity. And I'm going to throw in the word respect. We need to respect our emotions.
I really like that. Instead of asking, how do I make this feeling go away? Maybe we ask, what does this feeling need from me before I decide what to
Mhm.
do with it?
One thing that really helped me in recognizing that there's a difference between reacting and responding, a reaction is usually immediate, right? It's that it has a lot of force behind it, where a response isn't more intentional. A reaction is driven by that intensity of the emotion in the moment, and a response is guided by who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in this circumstance?
And I don't know about you, but rarely I regret the responses that have come after I've taken a breath. I usually regret the ones that came before. And anyone that knows me, anybody that's listening to this is like, has anything to do in my life, I guarantee you they're going to be like, Amy's made a lot of those mistakes of I I feel an emotion, I react, I send that text, and I do think as I'm getting older that a lot of those things are I'm starting to pause on a lot of those things. I also think I used to think that that meant I was strong.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I thought that if I had the courage to respond quickly with a well, I guess it is how do I say it the right way? I think I used to think that being a strong female was you always had to handle it and go back at it, and that showed strength. And sadly, at 55, I'm learning that for me, strength for me
Yes.
is just being still and not saying it. I guarantee if my family heard me just say that, they'd be like, well, that was wise. That was wise, mom.
Is that the one that I
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. In a take action kind of world that we live in, it does feel like you're more powerful and stronger. And maybe even there's a little bit, I'm going to
Right.
show up and
Yes.
be this, where for the real power is being able to be the one that steps back and thinks through. And I think it's important to say that it doesn't mean you don't say something. It doesn't mean that you don't address the situation, but you don't have to address it in the height of the emotion,
Hmm.
right? We can let it come back and settle and let our brain get back on. Because one of the reasons is usually it's when our emotion gets triggered, it feels like it's usually probably responding from a place that feels like something's an attack or a threat. And it doesn't need to necessarily mean a threat because someone's going to hurt you. It means someone has disappointed you, or
Hmm.
someone has let you down, or someone has said something that really hurt your feelings. Probably, I would hope most of the time unintentionally, but our brain doesn't take it that way, right?
And at our age, I don't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
you're fine.
at our age, this may not happen to you, but this happens to me. I have felt this before, and I don't like the direction it's going because last time that went in a bad direction. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, they've disappointed you, they're not fulfilling your needs. You're already, like we talked about last episode,
Mhm.
you're creating the story that it's gonna be a bad ending when this may not even be the same situation, but it feels similar to a past one. And so you react similarly.
I love this, Amy, right?
I mean,
you're speaking neuroscience to me right now,
I know.
Because that's exactly what our brain does, right? It grabs the pattern. If it doesn't have all the information, it fills it in, it makes up the story because it's going to recreate the pattern that it already knows, because that's the easy thing for it to do. And it's the safe thing for it to do, even if it causes us some, emotional hurt or sadness or whatever, it's still the easier thing for the brain to do. So I love that you say that because your brain's going to recognize that pattern and say, oh, I know where this story's going.
Yeah.
And I'm already
I'm already at the ending.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when something catches us off guard, our emotional brain responds almost instantly. Remember, we talked about the little amygdala that's in the center of our brain, and we need to get that prefrontal cortex online in order to calm it down. So we have to do that. And that's why even taking a slow breath, a short walk, saying, I'd like to think about that, that's become one of my bigger levers to pull is I need to think about this for a while to give myself that space. Cause sometimes my emotional wave can take a bit. I might have to go all the way up to being really, really mad, or, swing back down to maybe being sad or hurt or what right. I can take a while on that. So that completely changes how I get to choose to respond to something. And it's not just about avoiding the situation at all. It's about giving ourselves enough space for the wisdom to come in and join the conversation.
Definitely. I'm not saying I always have a lot of wisdom, but usually if I will stop and let some time pass, I generally can come to my senses. But I love that phrase, giving wisdom a chance to join the conversation. Because I think that is what we're all really looking for, not fewer emotions, just wiser responses. So I think one of the biggest gifts that the little pause can give us is just perspective, because in the moment, our emotions can feel like a full story, like we've been saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We're dealing with the brain, we're dealing with the emotions, we're dealing with the heart. We got everything going.
Right.
So they really can. And sometimes all we need is enough space to remember, this is how I'm feeling now. It's not necessarily the whole truth. And I've really learned to not make permanent decisions from those temporary emotions.
That's good. Because we've all had those moments. We're tired, we're overwhelmed, we're hurt, and suddenly we're ready to quit the job, walk away from the relationship, or convince ourselves that everything is falling apart.
Exactly. So then it's amazing how when we get a good night's sleep, have a real conversation, or we might just even simply wake up with a different perspective. Because the other thing that the brain is really great at is organizing while you're sleeping, right? So you might have rebooting. Yeah. Processing. So the situation might not have changed, but we have.
I've had that happen a lot where I'll go to bed feeling one way and wake up and kind of have a completely different take on it. I mean, that's, I think it gives us permission to be human. We don't have to pretend that we aren't emotional. We don't have to let every emotion become our next action.
Absolutely. Yes. So one of the things that I remind myself is that I can honor this feeling without giving it the steering wheel, right? I don't have to do that.
I love that visual because every emotion does deserve a seat in the car, but not every emotion should be driving the car.
You're right. Although we know it has, right? At times.
Many a times, unfortunately.
Yeah. So one of the things to consider is that our emotions have something to tell us. It's telling us something. It has information for us. It might be that fear has something to tell me, or frustration is telling me something, disappointment. I'm disappointed and this is telling me something. But before I decide what to do, I like wisdom to have a chance to contribute to the conversation too.
Definitely. Can you think of something that's happened recently that you could kind of like just pull from? I'm trying to figure out a new car situation, and I've got millions of thoughts, and I'm just trying to, it's the first time I've been patiently sifting through lots of options, lots of ideas, and thinking, well, what's best for me 3 years from now? What's best for me right now? And then should I be thinking that it's just been really nice that, again, we keep learning. It's okay to just sit here, and that not making a decision doesn't mean that you're not going to make a decision.
Right.
It means you're going to maybe wait in some space to make the best decision.
Yeah.
And I've also learned that just because it's the best decision for me doesn't mean that it's what other people would think is the best decision.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. You
I
know what I mean?
Yes, ma'am.
Like we have people giving us advice from all different angles. And that's something that I've really kind of been journeying through too, is kind of like, just because other people think something doesn't mean. I'll give you an example. Like, we've talked about, I don't like to be alone. Like, I want to be in a relationship. And people will be like, oh, just work on yourself. Just be okay being yourself. And I'm like, I'm 55. I've been working on myself. I want to find a person.
Yeah.
And I've learned it's okay for me to not want to be alone.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I don't like myself. That doesn't mean that I can't be alone. That's my preference.
Yes.
So I've kind of gotten to that place in life where I'm like, I don't have to like work on myself if that's not what I want to do. So, anyways,
totally.
I know. You're like off topic, Amy.
No, I love
topic.
it. I love it because I think this gives two different things, right? It's great when we have people who love us, that feel that giving us advice they're showing their love for you or their concern and stuff.
Sure.
And that is wonderful, right?
Yes.
And I also think there's another side of that we have to recognize. That's from their perspective. That's from their opinion. And if there is value in it, great.
Yes.
And if there's not, then we get to say, thank you very much. I love that you love me. And we get to go make our decision. And I think we're going to go way off topic right now.
That's okay. I love it.
I think this is where we as women tend to negate our own desires and wants.
100%. We're so busy seeking everybody else's, I don't know, acceptance, being pleasers. I don't know. What am I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you can say it better than I'm trying to say.
Well, I think it can come from multiple things from us, but I think it's usually one we'll question. If you're like, man, I want to be in a relationship. Mm-hmm. I like where I am right now. I don't want to do more work on myself.
Yeah.
Then yay, you, right? Yay, you. But other people can't see that necessarily, mm-hmm. or they're looking at things from a perspective. And then we feel, I don't know if guilt is it or an obligation to honor what their advice was, mm-hmm. Or what they shared with us. So then we kind of get in this little conundrum, right? Where we're like, this is what I really want, but I'm going to shut my voice down because this is what they think is better mm-hmm. for me. Mm-hmm. And I think if we can take that pause and recognize it for, they're sharing this because they care. They're sharing this because they want what's best for us. And that's their perspective. They're not walking in our shoes. They're not mm-hmm. sleeping in our skin, mm-hmm. And for us to be able to graciously go, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's
thank you.
Great. And this is what I want in my life. This is what I want to go after. This is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
That was awesome.
Wow. We went off there, but I think this is all part of our conversation because this is what you would talk about with your girlfriend, right?
Yes. And that's why we started this podcast. Someone mm-hmm. else out there is feeling like I'm feeling right now, what I just said, right? Like exactly. And people are feeling the things that you say. So we're just hoping that people in the community are like, yeah.
So I think that's important for us to recognize is usually when we react because we've been activated or triggered or whatever word you want to use, we feel a need to kind of defend or prove our point. When we respond, then I'm trying to understand theirs. I'm giving myself that space to understand the other person's point.
That's such a big difference because mm-hmm. sometimes the most loving thing we can do isn't finding the perfect words. It's simply slowing the conversation down, which I think you and I we are doing in this space. Mm-hmm. I love it. Yeah, it's great.
I love it. So, I think, and this is what I say, and I think I said this a second ago, but we went off track, so I'm not quite sure. But I like to think about that, or give me a few minutes before I can answer is definitely my most powerful lever. It's just to give myself that space. Or, we might need more clarity. We might, rather than letting our brain make up the information, we might ask them, so help me understand what you mean. And that all of those give the simple pauses that allow us to have connection rather than conflict.
And that's what really most of us want, right? We don't want to win the conversation. We do want to protect the relationship.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. So responding instead of reacting isn't about being passive. It's not about rolling over. It's really about, sometimes our response really still needs to be honest. Sometimes it needs to be very firm, but honesty delivered with intention almost always lands differently than honesty being delivered through hurt.
Ooh, I think that's great. Say it again. You said say it again. So I could process it.
So honesty delivered with intention almost always lands differently than honesty that is delivered from hurt.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. We might be saying the same truth, but it's the emotion and the reaction behind it.
I think one practice I've been trying to ask or asking myself lately, like one simple question before I respond is, who do I want to be in this moment? And that has really been a big game changer for me uh, with a lot of my conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, if there's one thing I would say, who do I want to be in this moment? And it's changed how I respond, how I react, and lots of other things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not how do I win, not how do I make them understand, not uh, what do I want from them, but just who do I want to be in this moment? And that's been driving how I communicate, make decisions, and it's been really helpful.
Mm-hmm. I love that, Amy, because that question really brings us back to our values, our own personal values. That emotion really matters, but our values matter too. Those values are driving us. And when those two things begin to work together, our responses can be much more aligned with the life that we're trying to create.
And honestly, sometimes my answer could be that I want to be someone who waits until tomorrow, or I want to wait till tomorrow to see who I want to be. There's that too.
Absolutely.
I mean, like that's another thought.
Absolutely. Because then when we're caught up in that moment, we actually forget of who we want to be. Right? 100%. So one of the things that has become my mantra with a lot of stuff. So I think we all have people in our life that are forming their opinion like, well, so-and-so should be doing this, or so-and-so should be doing that, or I don't understand why they're doing this way, or what, right? Whatever that is. And I have really embraced not my circus, not my monkeys, because if it doesn't affect my life, then I don't need to be worrying about how somebody else is living theirs.
And spending so much emotional energy on it that you really don't have to spare.
Yes.
So that's another good thought. Yeah.
That is mine. So, and that has saved me more than once, right? I've never regretted waiting until I was calmer, waiting until my prefrontal cortex was offline, but I have definitely regretted from reacting too quickly in the heat of the moment. So as we close today,
it's already over. We're already close to the end.
We are.
Oh my God, this is so
fun. We would love to leave you with a simple invitation, as we always do this week. Notice those moments that ask something of you. It might be a difficult conversation, an unexpected disappointment. Maybe it's a frustrating email or text, a comment that catches you off guard. I think those get to me the most, right? Those comments sometimes.
Ooh. Yeah.
But before you respond, pause, take a slow breath, and remember Viktor Frankl's words: between stimulus and response, there's a space. Try to find that space. See if you can't find that space, even if it's only for a few seconds.
I'm creating that space right now.
Okay.
And while you're in that space, ask yourself one gentle question: who do I want to be right now? Not because you'll always get it right, but because every pause is another opportunity to practice becoming the person that you're growing into, that I'm growing into as we're speaking. So
I love it. And we're always growing, right? So one of the beautiful things about this journey is realizing that growth isn't about never feeling frustrated, disappointed, or hurt. We know life happens. Growth is information that our emotions can inform us without controlling us.
And softening doesn't necessarily mean becoming less passionate, because trust me, I'm one of the most passionate people you ever met. But it is about creating enough space for compassion, wisdom, and grace to join the conversation before we respond.
Mm-hmm. And if this conversation today resonated with you, we would love for you to continue the journey with us. You'll find the links to this week's Rose and Raspberry Fizz and reflection questions in the podcast notes down below. You can also join our community for downloadable resources, event information, and all of our companion materials at www.balanceandbubbles.com.
And if you're enjoying our podcast, please be sure to like and subscribe to help share with more people. Send the link to a friend, share with a group of your friends you think might enjoy the podcast. You can also find the links to all our platforms below. We'd love for you to be part of our growing community. And remember, if all you have today is a cup of coffee or a glass of water, you're still sharing this moment with us.
Thank you for spending your time with us today.
And until next time, come as you are.
Reset often. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.